Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Luke Dooley from Ocean, back with you for our Monday, Wednesday, Friday live conversations that we've been doing. This has become one of my favorite things that we're doing throughout the week. For us here at Ocean, this was one of our ways that immediately in the moment we said, how can we respond in the midst of the coronavirus and the COVID moment? What can we begin to do for the community to put tools and resources and people in front of them that we think add value and are really helpful? So we had this idea just to start going live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and on YouTube, and just beginning to build some audience and some conversation around leaders who are navigating the moment with excellence, with expertise, and have something of real value to contribute to the Ocean community, to entrepreneurs, to leaders in general who may be tuning into these conversations. So we've had all sorts of fun conversations with different types of leaders from different avenues and different walks of life. And today I'm really excited to sit down with a guy who's really one of my best buddies and someone that I know is going to add tremendous value to you, whether you're watching this live or whether you're catching this here in a little bit. I'm excited for you to meet my friend, Dane Sanders. Dane, hello.
Hey, Luke. Thank you for having me on.
Man, thank you for taking the time to jump on. This is so fun. Dane, for the folks who may not be familiar with you, will you just tell us a little bit about kind of who you are and the work that you're up to in the world?
Sure. So I have been concerning myself with the question of how do humans thrive in any context for a long time. Undergraduate degree was in business, grad work was in philosophy, studied virtue ethics in particular, and just became a little obsessed in my own life with how do I thrive in the midst of regular old life, and have spent time both as an entrepreneur, a creative entrepreneur, doing a lot of work with other entrepreneurs over the years. And currently I'm running a company called Tell Me Your Dreams, which is actually, we take therapists, licensed therapists, and train them in our coaching modality. And we go into organizations and help employees discover who they are, what they want in life, and to actually have the employers empower these employees to go and achieve their dreams, even if those dreams are distinct from the company's aspirations. And it's very meaningful work. Before COVID, now it's particularly meaningful work because everyone's in a massive reset and they're reassessing their aspirations and what they want in the midst of radical constraints around how they're doing life and navigating life. And it's opened up some tremendous conversations that, candidly, I don't know if I would have ever had a chance to get into if it wasn't for this remarkable moment.
Yeah, it is a remarkable moment indeed. So your work focuses on flourishing and creating thriving lives. Is there a magic bullet? Is there a silver bullet to the flourishing life?
Well, there is a little. I mean, I think, there's people who enter into circumstances that they're not familiar with or didn't welcome or want. Like, let's say they get in a car accident or someone gets sick or someone they love is hurt or is dying. And why is it that some people go into those experiences and they get stronger, whereas other people go into those exact same circumstances and get taken out? They crumble. Why do they lose their kind of integrity with themselves? And I would argue that there's probably some common themes that happen for those who aren't just resilient in those moments, but actually somehow get bigger as human beings in the midst of it. And a lot of it has to do with the work they did before the moment showed up. They have habits and rhythms and rituals that are in their lives that are so foundational to how they're navigating life that they're kind of set up to win regardless of predictable lifestyles and things going their way all the time. And I think that there's several categories that people can consider in that. They can think of habits with their body. They can think of habits with their mind, with their soul. And these are things it's tempting to relate with these habits like nice to haves, but in moments like COVID, it's need to haves. And we just didn't know we needed them until now. So whether people are walking into this moment with a lot to offer, or they're walking into this moment and there's a reveal where they realize, man, I need more resource right now. There's a lot of hope for people who can begin to consider, well, what is my current reality? What is my preferred state that I'm not in right now? And what's one of the needed between plot points A and B, where I can begin to install these kind of core habits and rituals that will buffet me, put me in a position where I can not just survive a moment, but actually thrive in the moment.
Man, Dan, that's so good. That's so well stated. If anyone wasn't familiar with you before that little soliloquy, they're now leaning in, going, "Okay, this guy has something to say that I can learn from." And you've studied this so much. You've read a ton about this. You've interviewed countless people about this conversation, about these kinds of things. And so when the COVID moment happened, when this news started to break, and I think we all started to realize the world is sort of changing, right? Like there's something fundamentally shifting, and there's a short-term thing that's happening that we can respond to, and there's a long-term thing that's going to alter the way we operate. You seized the moment in the best of senses. I say it like you had a visceral response, I think, to it. And it's almost like you instantly knew, and I'm using my words and interpreting, you could affirm or correct. It's like you instantly knew what you wanted to do and how you wanted to respond in terms of supporting other people. Can you talk a little bit about that? And maybe it wasn't that clear for you, but how did that happen for you?
Yeah, it's easy to make these things revisionist histories and tell this amazing story of what happened. The truth was, for me, well, and we should give some context. So I run this online course right now called the Habit Course, How to Win at Working from Home. And we launched it 3 weeks ago. We're just starting week 4. It's an 8-week, 40-day event, like 5 days a week for 8 weeks, 40 days. And when it first went down, so you picture like 3 or 4 weeks ago, which feels like a million years ago now, I just had this overwhelming sense that now was the time to invite people to consider their habit life, to consider the complexity of combining home life with work life in the same physical space, to realize that if your boss told you how to spend your days before, they're not telling you those things anymore. So now the responsibility is on you to take control of the structural pieces and the structural elements of your life. So it just so happened that I had 12 to 15 years of working in places like this. Working from home was not new to me. And I had also developed a pretty rigorous rule of life in several categories that I was living out. This wasn't a theoretical thing that I was just adding to my life when COVID showed up. This was something that I'm living in every day, all the time. And I just felt like I wanted to invite some friends into that conversation. And what we did was I just said, hey, I'm going to do this starting next week. Didn't totally know how I was going to do it. And I thought maybe, 30, 40 people would show up. And we had a modest list with the company, sent it out, and about 50 or so showed up, which was super encouraging. And I was super happy with that. But then the next day, Forbes magazine did a feature on us and what we were doing. And we grew 10x in about a week and a half. So now we're coming up on almost 600 people who are a part of this course. And again, anyone can join anytime. Every session is a standalone, but it fits in an 8-week theme. You can catch the replays if you want. It's all free. But and you can.
So are there 600 people on this call?
No, there's only room for 100 people on a live call. But so people, this is even amazing. Like I knew that if I didn't charge for it, the upside of not charging, of course, is this is a moment where people don't want to be. They don't have a lot of. They're really nervous about cash flow, which I get. On the other side of it, though, if they didn't have skin in the game, they wouldn't prioritize it. So I was really torn. So I said, the best way to do this is live. We're not putting it on the replay. And we're just going to do it every weekday at 9 a.m. Pacific. But now, because there's only 100 slots, people are actually showing up early to get in for the live event. But then I realized I did need to create a replay because when I was trying to catch other people up, it was just too complicated. So we built a whole back end, started putting all the resources there. So now people can catch up on their own, but if they want to catch it live, they have to be in the first 100 every time we get together in the morning.
It's such a cool thing, Dane. I've been a part of it for the last couple of weeks. I don't think I was there at the very first one, but I jumped in pretty early on. I've been able to make it most days that I can at noon, and it's been really cool. And here's the thing: this is not like Dane's quick 5 tips for how to perfect working from home. This is something a little richer and deeper than that, isn't it? There's some communal elements to this that are different.
Yeah, I think it's pretty human. Like it's an interesting moment right now. What's getting revealed? Like my son and I have been in a great conversation around mindfulness and Headspace, and like we actually use the app Headspace, and this is a good object lesson in my mind. He came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, the more I meditate, the more anxious I get," and I suggested that that's not really what's happening. What's happening is he was anxious, and by meditating, he's actually developing an awareness to what's going on in his life, and it's amplifying what was already present. And I would argue that in many ways, COVID is that, where what was already true for folks is now getting exposed in profound ways. And we see this in social, like the zeitgeist of pop culture too. Like you think about how influencers were navigating our world before. They would be very show off with their affluence, and that would actually draw more people to follow them. But all of a sudden, when Gwyneth Paltrow is talking about her carbon fiber mask and how she took a test and she's on her, I don't want to pick on Gwyneth, but people are reacting very negatively to that phenomenon because she feels so far removed from the human condition right now. And people are craving radical authenticity. What are you actually doing in your real world? Can that real world reflect in any way in my real world? Because I'm so confronted with a new sense of what reality means. And people are craving authentic community. So we built it that way. Like we're just a bunch of regular people trying to navigate a very complex time. And we're just inviting people to do that. And we're trying some clever things. Like not only are we doing the live Zoom call every day, but we're on Marco Polo, which if you guys don't know Marco Polo, it's basically Snapchat for old people. And it's really not complicated. My kids don't want to use it, but all my adult friends who use it, it's just a very helpful way to have asymmetrical communication. We don't require another meeting on our schedule or whatever, but when you want to jump on, you kind of have your squad in your pocket. And that's created a phenomenon, especially now with a global audience. We have people from India, South Africa, Morocco, certainly the US, Canada, Mexico, like everywhere. And we're really helping buoy each other in the midst of, I think, inserting some really helpful fundamental ideas on perspective and identity and practical habits around things like minimizing or minimalism and getting minimal viable doses, just enough of what you need to know more, and a whole bunch of other things. But we have a theme every week. We have a bunch of approaches to it, and we're seeing a lot of exciting life come from it.
It's a lot of fun, man. You're sharing really cool doses of wisdom for people. You're bringing some of the best thoughts or thinking from a lot of different kind of circles and avenues, like you said, whether it's philosophy, whether it is religion, or whether it's, from leadership, kind of thought leaders. You're bringing so many different elements for people and making it really distillable and bite-sized. And I love that it's actionable. You're creating action for people around it. And I texted you this morning after this morning's chat and just said, Dane, you've created something really special. In the Zoom call today, I got get randomly placed in breakout groups. And there was a person in one of my breakout groups, and she just led right out with, we were talking about kind of baggage. What do we need to take out of our bags right now to be more light and nimble and to kind of not have that weight on our shoulders? And she said, I came here, this is my very first day. I have no idea really what this thing's all about, but I knew I needed community and I have no idea how to work from home effectively. And I'm hopeful that this place can help me. And she said, so far, I think it's the right place for me to be. And I just affirmed that. And then at the end, when she said what she wanted to take out of her bag, she said, what I want to take out of my bag is my worry. I am consumed right now by worry and I want it to be gone. And I just as a Christian, as a pastoral heart, as a leader, just as a human, right? I was going, my response was, I'm so glad Dane created this for this woman, right? If for no other reason, for this woman, that she finds this space and that she finds community and she can release that worry and find support around that. I was so encouraged. And so Dane, you've kind of done something that we've talked a little bit in this chat at Ocean, where we've said, what's it mean to take advantage of a crisis moment in non-predatory ways? How do we maximize these moments? And I think you've done a really great job of that. So kudos to you, man. I love it.
You're generous, man. I'm very pleased, and it does feel like this was a good initiative to lead out with. But I think it's just the beginning. Like when I think of all of the incredible work that you guys are doing at Ocean, really creating best practice, not only library of content, but really great practitioners in the entrepreneurial space coming in and helping these startups really get dialed in the right direction. You're resetting their trajectory for a totally different result than they could have ever pulled off on their own. And that's kind of what I think this moment is. It's not there's going to be a lot of people that will opportunistically take advantage of people, but we don't have to. Ironically, you can get so far ahead. You can create a great opportunity for whatever project you're in the middle of, as long as it is value centric and speaks to people in a meaningful, authentic way. And I think that's what every business should be thinking about right now. It's not just how do I survive my cash flow and how do I make my life work right now. This is one of those moments where we are so all in this together. And this is, to borrow a phrase from Seth Godin, like we're in a slog and it's going to be here for a while. Now is a great time to be thinking about what kind of value you're creating and how can you put it in people's hands in such a way that you're helping them solve problems. One of our themes in week 2 is this idea of being the guide, which is an idea I've taken from a friend of mine, Donald Miller, with his work at StoryBrand and Business Made Simple University. And the idea is just positioning yourself in the story where you're the person who's helping out from a sense of experience and empathy. And that idea of being the guide in the marketplace for others is just so mission critical. So every one of your organizations that you're supporting with Ocean and the community that you're drawing in, if they're thinking from that perspective of how can I be helpful in this moment, and you're playing the long game, even if in the short game you're very uncomfortable and it's really anxiety producing, what you're going to do is position yourself for a much, as we navigate this in all its complexity, now is the time when we need guides. We need the people that you can lean into. And if you're wondering who that's supposed to be, it's probably you. And that's what you're doing. That's why you're doing this thing right now. And that's what I think you're calling other people to. And it's why it's such an easy thing to participate with, because I think this is precisely the moment, especially as believers, that we're called to. We've been, for such a time as this is the whole point for these kinds of moments.
Man, I love that. That's so well stated. So just to recap, what I heard you say there was, in this moment, whether it's right now, whether it's the thing you're thinking about in the future, the common sense way to respond right now is to think about, am I solving a real problem? Am I adding real value? Am I creating community, right? Like a community centered solution. That's an important value for you, right?
Oh, it's massive. I mean, again, I didn't have any plans on working with 500 to 600 people on a daily basis. Like this is taking over a lot of my life right now. And, but the reason it's manageable is because I'm not doing all the heavy lifting. Now the community itself is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Like people are crediting other people in the community for good work that's happening, like for encouragement and listening ears and perspective. And all I did was kind of set the rules for the community and kind of be consistent with them. And now that's one of the best things about building a community is once you establish the norms, then the community perpetuates itself. It regulates how we are together and how we relate with each other. They need to be led, but once the leadership starts going, it's more like maintaining that, flywheel as opposed to feeling like all the heavy lifting is on me to keep doing every single day. And that became a value I was really clear on early on out of survival, but now it's turning into this, it's its own reality. People are they're showing up every day voluntarily, no pulling teeth, and they're creating their own value as they collaborate on how can we help each other be better.
That's it. It's super cool. So in our last couple of minutes together, and I said the chorus that you're leading, it is not this, but do your best version of, like, for the folks that are working from home for the first time and have no idea how to do this, like what are your just like top things, like your power tools or resources or mindsets around this? And then what should people do? Like, where do they go grab this? Where do they go kind of sign up and join up?
Yeah, probably the quickest and easiest way to do it, to share, is to talk specifically about we have a creed that have 8 parts to it. I won't go too long-winded in it, but I'll just give a little context where every little phrase in this creed, that's very short, it's 1 sentence, is a theme for our week. And if anyone's interested in participating, they just go to tellmeyourdreams, and there's a little, right at the very top of the page, people can sign up and join in whenever they want. They can catch up or just join in live right now. But we cover these themes. And I'll read it's on my phone. I live with myself, so I'll just read it. I get to, and I'll explain that in a minute, be the guide who fuels first, travels light, prioritizes profit, corrects course, plays infinite, and stands now. So these are kind of some operating values that I have for myself personally. These are the operating values for our company and the work that we get to do with B2B and B2C now. But they all mean something. So get to is an exercise in perspective. How do I shift from having to do something to getting to do something? You know, the old proverb of, 2 guys are pushing rocks up a hill, 1 guy's pushing a rock, the other guy is building a cathedral. Whose rock is lighter? It's pretty obvious, right? And that notion of one gets to go do this because they're building something profound, the other, it's a burden. And it's so much of its perspective on the burden. That's what will transform their experience of it. So that's that. We spent a whole week on that. Week 2 was be the guide, and we already talked a little bit about positioning yourself in the story. So you're not the guy, you're not the victim, you're not the villain. You might not even be the hero. You're actually positioning aspirationally to be the guide to other people. How profound that can be in your own sense of confidence and strength. Who fuels first? That's just the simple idea that if I work out of, and this is actually, I think probably Andy Crouch should get credit for this one, but this notion of getting the fuel you need and then working from that fuel, as opposed to working till you're empty and then having to recover from a hard day of work. Again, it's perspective, but when people live like that, they focus on things like the basics: sleep, hydration, getting the spiritual fuel before you start your day, how critical that can be to your days. Traveling light, having just enough of what you need and no more. Prioritizing profit, thinking deeply about getting return on your life, not just your business. How are you prioritizing a holistic sense of profit in your life? Correcting course, we're always off of course. How do we be aware of that and go, how do I recalibrate on a moment-by-moment basis so that I'm in alignment with what I'm committed to? Playing infinite is a whole other conversation. We're going to have a week of conversation around infinite games and finite games, and are we playing to win, or are we playing to keep playing? And then our final week will be around standing now, which is around personal agency and self-determination and the commitment to have a sense of competency, a sense of connectedness, and a real sense of urgency that today, now, in the present is the moment you want to take on.
All right, give us the creed real quick again.
One more time. I get to be the guide who fuels first, travels light, prioritizes profit, corrects course, plays infinite, and stands now.
Dane, that's so good. I just read it. I read a news story on CNN a little bit before our call, and it was about a guy whose team wanted to celebrate him and honor him. And so they took him to a fighter jet academy, and they surprised him with flying in a fighter jet.
Oh my God.
Unbeknownst to them, he had no desire to do this, but decided to go through with it. His heart rate's through the roof. He gets in the jet takes off. And the flight report says that in a moment of panic, an involuntary reflex, he's looking around, and they knew because of the watch he was wearing how high his heart rate was. As he's panicking, he's looking around for something to grab onto. He grabs onto something and just rips it. And that's, in this moment, that's what all of us are doing. Like, a lot of people feel that chaos, and they're looking for something to grab, and they're looking for something to rip. Unfortunately for him, he pulled the eject seat, and he ripped out of a fighter jet at 2,500 feet and just blew the top off the thing. And fortunately, everyone was okay, himself and the pilot included.
This really
the pilot landed the plane. This is a true story on CNN.com right now, but I just told you the whole thing, so I'm not sure what you'll go read. But man, in a moment when people are looking around for something to grab onto, you've given something really cool. You've created this awesome community. It's not an eject seat. It's a lifeline. It's a community. It's a resource. And I love seeing the comments. Our mutual friend Robbie is here cheering you on, saying, Dane, this is great. So good. I know people that watch this, they're going to go, I gotta dive into this. I want to learn more about, I want to learn from this guy. So Dane, thanks for blessing our community. Thanks for coming on and sharing with us.
Thanks for all you do, Luke. You're a leader and a friend. And I just, these are times where we need those things. So thanks for who you are and what you do.
Thanks, bud. I appreciate it. Hey, hang on the back end. I'm going to bounce you out and we're going to kind of close this thing and then we'll say goodbye. Hey guys, thanks for joining up with us every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 3 o'clock. These are a ton of fun. I hope you go check out Dane and learn a little bit more about what he's up to with Tell Me Your Dreams and the habits from home chorus. Hey, we'll be back on Wednesday where you're going to meet another one of the Ocean Accelerator companies. And actually then on Friday, our guest on Friday is going to be really fun for me. And I know for you too. It's a guy named Gabe Lyons. Gabe is the founder of a community called Q. He actually used to be my boss. He's one of my good friends, and he has created an amazing place called Q for people of faith to come gather around conversations, cultural conversations in meaningful ways and wrestle with the most difficult topics of our age and of our moment. And they have something really cool coming up in a couple of weeks. And we're going to tell you about that on Friday. And Gabe's going to help us give us some good frameworks as people of faith. How do we respond in these moments? How do we show up in this cultural age that we find ourselves in? So we'll see you on Friday for that. And on Wednesday for one of our founder chats with an Ocean Accelerator founder. Thank you guys.